Right. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Larry, for very kind introduction. Yes, as you can see, this book is it's a book with probably the weirdest title and definitely the strangest cover for an economics book in history. Don't ask me about the cover; it's all the publisher's doing. So ask Will, my editor over there. I have nothing to say about that. Well, as for the title, you may say that, well, one may like or dislike capitalism, but is there really anything more to know about it? I say that there are lots of things that you thought you knew about capitalism, at best partial truth, and at worst downright myth. So you actually need to know a lot of things about capitalism in order to understand how it really works and how it can be made better. Okay, so that's the easy part about the title, but then why 23 things? Well, some people thought that I was a fan of Michael Jordan, the legendary American basketball player, whose back number was apparently 23. I don't watch basketball. Some people thought that this was based on some strange numerology where all the world's significant events are related to the number 23. Apparently that set out in this book, series of novels that are called Illuminatus. I've never heard of that. Well, essentially it's a random number. The working title was actually 20 things they don't tell you about capitalism. But one day I was talking to my literary agent, Ivan Mulcahy, who unfortunately cannot be here today. I still remember the conversation that we were sitting in the patisserie Paul in Paddington Station having our coffee. And then that we were talking about the title, and at one point we looked at each other and said, 20 things is a bit boring, isn't it? So I said, yeah, that's true. I could easily write about a dozen more things, but that would make the book too long, so why not start at 25? Well, 25 is a bit obvious. I don't like even numbers. 21, well, too close to 20, so why not 23? Huh? So the title was born. Well, it's a bit Monty Python-esque, but that, in a way, kind of sums up the spirit with which the book was written. My American publisher, Bloomsbury, describes it as a light-hearted book with a serious purpose. So that's this title, while quite random, but actually has some meaning to it. Now, you'll find many of the things in the book difficult to swallow. Maybe not necessarily all 23 of them for all of you, but a sufficient number of them to make most of you uncomfortable. For example, yes, these are Thing 1 and Thing 2 from Dr. Seuss, Cat in the Hat. So Thing 1 says there's no such thing as a free market. This you might think is really strange because, yes, you may or may not like a free market, but want when you see it. Yeah? But is that really the case? For example, in the 19th century, when the social reformers tried to bring legislation to the British Parliament regulating and partly banning child labor, there's a huge uproar amongst free market supporters. And believe me, this regulation was incredibly kind of primitive. So they banned factory work for children up to the age of 9. Between 10 and 16, children could work, but only up to 12 hours a day. Yes. I mean, they are really going soft on these kids, huh? And this was applied only to cotton factories, which was considered particularly harmful for the workers' health. Yeah? Even then, free market supporters said, no, this is absolutely outrageous. This is undermining the sanctity of the idea of freedom of contract, which is the foundation of a free market. You know, these children want to work. These people want to employ them. What is the problem? Yeah? You know, today, even the most ardent supporters of free market would not endorse this kind of idea. And this example actually quite powerfully illustrates that, like beauty, freedom of the market is in the eyes of the beholder. So if you believe that children should have a childhood, have education, shouldn't have to work, yeah, then of course that you will think nothing of having regulation on child labor. If you didn't believe that, like those 19th century British free market supporters or many capitalists in developing countries today, you say that actually trying to regulate child labor is an infringement on the workings of a free market. Huh? So actually that the very definition of free market is political. Huh? You know, free market economists like to tell you that, you know, politics should be kept away from economics because it will keep interfering with the market rationality. It will make it inefficient. But actually, the very definition of the boundaries of the market, you know, who can participate, what can be sold and bought, how they can be sold and bought, these are all politically determined. So when the free market economists say that we are scientists, and those the people who want to intervene in the market are politically minded kind of people, they are actually not telling you the truth. The truth is that free market position is as political as any other position. Thing 2 says companies should not be run in the interest of the owners. Once again, a quite weird proposition on the face of it. Well, I say this because these days companies are owned by floating shareholders who do not really have any commitment in the long-term future of the companies. So they demand the maximum amount of short-term profit and the maximum proportion of that to be distributed as dividends. You know, some American economists did this calculation and argued that if General Motors didn't engage in this famous share buyback, namely the companies buying their own shares to prop up share prices to please the shareholders, it could have actually paid off all the debts that made it go bankrupt back in 2008. Yeah? Anyway, so these floating shareholders demand short-term profit, highest possible rate of dividends. And of course, this harms the long-term future of the company because the easiest way for companies to make profit is not to invest, especially in things that have long-term returns like machinery and research and development, worker training. But do they care? No, the owners, so-called owners, do not really care because they can always go to another company if the company goes into decline. So actually, running the company in the interest of the legal owners is not actually good for the company itself. Anyway, basically, I have 23 of these kind of things, things that sound quite absurd or counterintuitive at least. And but if you read it through, you will realize that actually, there's some important argument there. Just another example. Yes, I don't think I have time to go through it, but basically in this example, I'm asking, you are told all the time that markets reward people justly, so whatever happens in the market is not only efficient but fair. But is that really true? For example, in this thing, I talk about two bus drivers. One Indian guy called Ram, well, he's a fictional character, but who's driving a bus in New Delhi. Another guy called Sven, who drives a bus in Stockholm. Sven gets paid 50 times what Ram gets paid. But is it because Sven is 50 times better at driving than Ram is? Well, I don't know whether we can actually